for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Good evening. How you doing? How you doing? Fade to Black. Yeah, but you knew that. That's why you are here. Today is Tuesday, August 15th, 2026. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Let's do this, man. What a great week on the show. Last night, Noe Torres with us, South Texas UFOs. What a great conversation. Tonight, Gretchen Cornwell is back with us, Oak Island's Templar Cave, Royston. Long title, amazing show. This is going to be a great conversation. Her new book is out, and we'll be talking about all of that tonight. Tomorrow night on the show, Danny Goller is back with us. That's right, tomorrow night, DMT. He's got a new film out. It's called The Discovery. You know what that is going to cover? That's right, The Code. The Code. Tomorrow night with Danny Goller. Thursday night, Jonathan Kendall, Dr. Jonathan Kendall is here. He's an MD, and we're going to be talking about his research into the mysteries of UFOs. Yeah, sentient consciousness, plasma, energy, nuts and bolts, metallic, sightings, activity, how they move, how they fly, all of that tomorrow or Thursday night here on the show. I do want to start off tonight by saying I'm wearing my Dolly Parton t-shirt that I've only worn once. And I this morning before the news broke, this is weird. I pick up my clothes, I'm going through the closet, and I'm going to wear it next week. I got a new Britney shirt. I did. I got a Britney Spears shirt. And I did. Okay, so anyway, hanging that up, the new Britney, in my female icons section of my closet. And there's the Dolly shirt. So I take the Dolly shirt out, and I do my thing. I come into the studio and I'm checking. I see the breaking news, Dolly Parton. I thought, what? Dolly Parton died? I'm wearing what? Yeah. Now, coincidence? Well, it can't be. But it's weird how I picked it out. Hanging up one shirt, seeing this one, pulling it down. So today's show dedicated to Dolly, and growing up like all of us, for her to have the crossover, into rock and pop, from country. But man, she just represented this country. She was everything that this country is about. And a very sad day for me. And so there you go. But weird, right? Weird. It was just like, no. All right, let's get on with it. Let's have a great show tonight. Gretchen is here, and the new book now. Okay, so we're going to be talking about Oak Island tonight a little bit for obvious reasons, but Royston is something that I have been researching for a long, long time, and her and I were talking about that before the show tonight, and its connections to the Knights Templar. We're going to be talking about that and what is represented inside of that cave, including the Excalibur Compass. We're going to be talking about that. Edward III, right? The Knights Templar founded communities around Royston, right? We're going to be talking about that too as well. And then there's a King Arthur connection, and all of this leads over to, of course, Oak Island. Now, she is a historian, right? Her research, and I just posted that up in the chat. her research is amazing, and it's really going to support this conversation tonight, where I am going to get to learn something. She has appeared on History Channel's The Curse of Oak Island and, of course, Ancient Aliens as an expert on the Knights Templar and medieval history. And she's also a contributor to Web Icon Inc., a documentary film, and has appeared in the documentary film series The Templars, The Sinclair Legacy, and many others. And I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only, she's right there, Gretchen Cornwell. Gretchen, what's going on?
Hey, thank you. It's great to be here with you. I'm absolutely inspired to talk to you tonight. It's great. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, well, not only the lighting, and you look great, you sound amazing. I just want to let you know that you sound amazing. Your producer, give him a bump and pay. It may be a she. Maybe a she. So now I'm going to start off with a weird thing to say. Your accent doesn't say England, but that's where you reside now. How did that happen?
Oh, there's always a man in these things, especially with a British accent.
Right.
But yes, my life is in flux. I've been back and forth between England and the US for 25 years, and family in Washington State. And I've been spending some time here now due to family matters. So, and we all come from a family, so it's bound to happen. But yeah, I've been told a mid-Atlantic accent, which pretty much explains myself. So yes.
Are you going to? Do you plan on picking up a British accent like Madonna?
No, I'm not
Are
that
you fighting it?
absorbent.
Are you fighting
No, where my family noticed when I started using terms like courgette, the loo, boot,
Bonnet,
the boots, the bonnet, these sorts
Yes,
of
yes,
things,
yes.
crikey, slang terms, and of course, coriander, different terms. And then I'd get the cross-eyed look. But I have always loved Terry Pratchett, and I don't know if anyone has seen the wonderful 2-part series, The Hogfather. And I tried to share that with my family, and they looked at me cross-eyed. But I love British humor. Blackadder, it's, I do love
Kunk
British
on
humor.
Earth. What about Kunk on Earth? Have you watched that?
I have not. I'm missing
What?
something. Oh no.
Okay. It's C-U-N-K, Kunk.
Okay.
Kunk on Earth.
Oh, Philomena.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
she is
Philomena's
wise.
amazing. She's
She is
amazing.
wise, and should be Empress of the known universe, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
right with you there. I'm right with you. I have always wanted to do what she does, right? In that, have fun with history, have fun with the planet, and be able to deadpan silly stuff. And she's a master at it, and she's so funny. So I don't get enough of her. I've never met her. Maybe a future guest here for Fade to Black. That would be a lot of fun. But yeah, she's great. Kunk on Earth. Wow.
The Brits have this capacity to be deadpan, to be blasé in the midst of the most ridiculous or extraordinary circumstances or commentary. And the only American I have seen best a British panel of comedians and journalists is William Shatner, going back a ways. And what was it called? Have I Got News for You? And he was in the center, a panel of 4, and he had them dropping their jaws. And I was dropping my jaw. I've never seen an American get the best of one satirist or journalist Brit, let alone 4. It was astonishing. Well worth looking up if you can find it. He's incredible. And of course, 95 now. But yes, the Captain Kirk is incredible.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Let's get to it.
Okay.
We were talking earlier about Oak Island and Royston, and a little bit about Rennes le Chateau, and some other stuff over there that I have always been fascinated with. And then when I got to Royston, and this was 35 years ago, when I stumbled upon Royston and tried to weed through the established facts on Royston, which back then, 35 years ago, the established facts were none. Right.
Yes.
And so for me, I said, this is it. It's go time. We have a genuine mystery that's carved in stone and in a
Yes.
cave. This is fantastic. That's what got me drawn to Royston. When everybody's throwing up their hands, that's when I jump in. Right. What for you? What started you on your journey with Royston Cave?
I have been steeped in Templarism, the Knights Templar, for a very long time. I actually did some little bit of humble marketing work for Lawrence Gardner via his then business partner, composer Adrian Wagner, who it was quite the trio. They had Peter Robson, the artist, Lawrence Gardner, and then of course the composer Adrian Wagner, as his preference was to be called. So I came across Royston in 2006, and it was known of in the UK, and a lot of people treated it as this weird, ugly, damp curiosity that was a little bit down at heel, as is said. But through the background, and I grew up, my mother was always reading and always questioning history, philosophy, spirituality. My father is a cracking good researcher, and I've spent many hours speaking with him over Royston Cave. So it's in my DNA. And when I came across it, I thought, oh my God, there's something going on here. You can feel it. You walk in there and it is meant to jar you out of your daily life and take you down a different path. And it's all coded. And over the years, I've discovered there are 4 layers of time periods. And I have to say, just in brief, Oak Island, took me 4 years to get them there. They're not easy to convince, and you have to throw your weight of information at them, and then they think about it for a long time, and then they just decide to show up or they don't. But it was a privilege to be on. The guys were great. Charles Barkhouse is a Freemason, and the first thing he said to me on the day, he walked up to me and said, "Gretchen, you have Templaritis. And it's incurable." And I fell in love with him at that juncture. And I hung out with him. I had lunch with him. And he is a wonderful speaker and historian for the island. And he wasn't supposed to go down there before filming because the producers wanted to catch his expression. But he snuck down there, came back up, and his face said it all. It was filled with, oh my God, what have I just experienced? What have I just seen? I recognize a lot of it. I don't believe this is actually here. And I would have loved to have spent a great deal of time, sharing more with them, but they only wanted a few peak points to demonstrate the story they were telling and the history they were telling. A lot of it got left on the cutting room floor, as is typical. And we were down there a long time. And I did tell the team, you are going to get cold. It's 26 feet down. And this is, and Marty Lagina said, okay, my body temperature has just crashed. I need to get out of here. And the space, it's small, and the boom operator, was perching on the entryway. It's small in there, only meant for 6, 12 people in a pinch. That should tell you something. But it was quite something, and it was great to film with them. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. But what ended up happening after I had a book drop that night, November 21st, 2022, the premiere episode of the season, which I was greatly honored by, that they had chosen me to kick that off. I brought the story to a greater international audience. And on the heels of that, I did set Royston aside. I've had so much going on, so much to do. I've got other projects on a back burner. But some very high profile individuals had noticed my work. And they are household names in our world, our sphere. And basically what happened was they tried to abscond with my discoveries. And I will say this, when someone like me or Jimmy yourself, you're a researcher, when you I'm in this because of what it means to me as a human being. The Holy Grail mysteries explain my universe and phenomenon, from other life on other worlds, other dimensions, to the medieval world of the Templars, what have you. This is where I live. This is where I'm from. So when somebody walks off with something that you've discovered, which is a holy grail of your life, and an original discovery is so rare. It is rare. And I have a few in the cave. So I went into overdrive. I finished publishing a book on Francis Bacon, March of 2026, which I hope to speak to you about afterwards. And then I went into overdrive to get this one done because I needed to protect my work. And I won't name names. They know who they are, and I don't know how they sleep at night. But I am ready to do business. I am ready to shake their hand. I am ready to be professional, and I hope they are too. But this book,
everybody, I just cut you off, Gretchen. But
yeah, no, it's all right.
All of us, in our community that do what we do it for our own personal passionate reasons, and you spend so much time on it. And one of the things that frustrates me is, because I've interviewed everybody, as you know, and I hear, I'll have somebody on the show, or a name gets brought up, and then I get a phone call, then I get a text. It's just like, man, look, their research, whoever it is the same as yours. It's somebody out there that's following their bliss and their passion. Doesn't make it right or wrong, or you right or wrong. We're all in this together, and we're trying to figure this out together. And I'm constantly throwing water on that fire.
Yeah, I hear
so
you.
It's just the way that it is, and it although at times frustrating, and I get that. That's why I don't pay attention anymore.
Yeah, I've learned that the hard way, and
Me too.
it's been tough. I tell you, the last 2 years in particular have been really tough on that front. What I can say is there are only 12 books out there on the subject, and I'm 2 of them. So the provenance is easy to trace back on in these particular 2 discoveries. So not everything was known about Royston, and I have a wide range of skill set from historical clothing and creating historically themed wedding dresses. I'm a singer, a lyric writer. I'm steeped in the customs of the medieval world. So, I work hard to chase down my facts as well. And I always oversight someone else's work if I've fallen in love with their content. And
Right.
and I do constantly think, oh wow, what a mind to have come up with this. This is brilliant. Now we as a broader family we don't always get along, but like any crazy Oh goodness, I've been watching Da Vinci's Demons, and bad guys turn into good guys. They flip back again. They flip back again. So I do understand. And as a neutral host, you've got to embrace everyone. You have your friends, and I'm not inner circle on Oak Island. I have been fortunate enough to have been featured a few times. They have their own inner team of researchers, and the work I've done on the Xena Halpern map, or now called the Rochefoucauld map, is I'm proud of it. Not everything at this juncture has been put out there. A lot of people have their hands on that map, and I'm just one of them. And I'm an observer off to the side. So, and with Oak Island, it's almost like dating a difficult potential, partner, because they're so elusive. They hold their cards to their chest. They want to know what you know, but they won't tell you what they know for various reasons. So, you're constantly guessing, what do they want? What do they need? How do I supply that? And it's hard work, I tell you. But with Royston Cave, it was a privilege, and I really appreciated and enjoyed having the opportunity to share Royston Cave with them. But not all made it into my first book or in that episode in 2022. But boy,
there's so much
yeah.
inside of Royston. Now,
Yeah.
here's a general statement. It's full of too much symbology. It's got too much. It's overwhelming.
It's meant to be.
Yes. I'm going to pop up just for everybody, just to lay some foundations here, so you can understand what we're talking about. Here is the view coming into the cave. As you said earlier, Gretchen, there's only room for a half a dozen people. But when you first enter the cave like this, and I'm speaking about you, when you first entered the cave and you see this, how overwhelmed are you?
I was overawed, and I didn't know where to look first.
Right.
Now, the weird thing is, you're looking at a false situation. This was not the original entrance, as you may know. This was done in 1790 to bring in tourists. The original opening was an oculus from above that was sheltered by a structure that was in the hands of the Knights Templar, on the crossroads of the ancient Icknield Way, the Celtic Way, and the Roman Ermine Street that went from London up to York. Powerful intersection. Everybody wanted to control it because it was only 50 miles away from Templar HQ in London. And the Romans built Ermine Street, but it's not a Roman crossroads per se. There's no Mithras shrine. There's no other shrine to anyone else in their panoply of gods or goddesses. No archaeological evidence has ever come out of the ground to support that. The Romans thought that intersection was important enough to put a shrine there. And I can tell you, it does not date to the Dark Ages either. I can tell you when the carving started and when it was sealed for the final time. I think it's been sealed, opened, and the discovery story is false. I can tell you that as well.
You're talking about the 1742
42.
discovery?
Well, they wanted to build a bench for the market. And hey-ho, they discovered a buried millstone when they dug down to put the post in the ground. And they removed the millstone, and there was this massive opening. Now, the oculus would have originally been covered by a structure because it was a royal market town. You had to have royal permission to have a market town. And about 8 miles away, Baldock, which is a derivative of Baghdad, that royal market town was built by the Templars. The Templars wanted Royston, but they didn't get it. Interesting.
Now, when you see Royston today, I'm going to paint a little picture for the audience so they understand. Yes, there is now an entrance for the tourists that has been there for a while, and it's still open 3 or 4 days a week for tourists to go into.
And that's picking up.
there's a structure that comes up, and the oculus, if I'm explaining this correctly, there's a round opening at the top.
Yeah.
But when you see it from the outside, you can see the foundation of what was a building that was around that opening at the top. Is that what you're?
No, that's a tough one, because there is no indication that it exists at all from the top, because it is sealed. And you can find the spot approximately on the sidewalk. And what marked it originally was Lady Roysia's cross. And that's quite an interesting story too. So basically what you would do, it's a bell. It's shaped like a bell.
Yes, that's what I was doing.
Yeah, it's shaped like a bell. If you dissect it in half, it echoes a UNESCO heritage site in Israel of like 3,500 man-made caves. It echoes the floor plan of the Holy Sepulchre and also the Dome of the Rock, and where the Templars had their headquarters of Al-Aqsa Mosque. So they were replicating it. Now, if you want to see the above-ground version, just go up the road a few miles to Cambridge at the Cambridge Round Church. It is the above to Royston Caves below, and that was built by a mysterious group of an order that faded away pretty much as soon as it was built. And I think around, oh goodness, I don't have all my notes in front of me. I'm going to say 1130 approximately. Now, for a while, the official website for a temple, for the Round Church of Cambridge was that they thought that the Templars had built this structure, and then they took it down. So they flirted with the idea, and now they say it's Crusaders, but this group formed and then it disappeared. Now, Geoffrey de Mandeville is one of 9 effigies in Temple Church, London, and he is mysteriously adopted by the Knights Templar, one of the few secular individuals that was buried in the church. And they loved this guy. His wife in the 1140s builds the cross. Now, I believe that the cross was there to memorialize his death, and he was basically interred for a time secretly in Royston Cave, but at the time it was a dean hole. And dean holes are what you dig down to get chalk out of the ground to make plaster so you can build. Now the cross, what is all that remains is this big hunk of rock. And I've got a photo of me next to it, which I can't share with you, unfortunately. But it's a high status object, very expensive, and you don't put something like that up unless it's important. And of course, the town is named after her as well. And a pope in 1180 mentions Lady Roysia's cross. So it's established. So she builds that in the 1140s, but he dies in battle in 1144. So those two match up. But I don't believe at that time there were any carvings, and I can tell you exactly why. And
now,
that,
let me pull up this image, and I'll say it again. How much symbolism is too much? Well, let's start. Right?
Oh, you're going right for it, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, now when I look at Royston, it feels like everything that I've already seen before, like the Templar, the Friday the 13th, and all of their covers of their what's the word I want to use, their
Subterfuge.
where they're buried, the tombs, and so
effigies. The effigies. Well, though they're not actually buried there, those are likenesses.
You know what I'm saying, and so it looks very familiar, right?
Yeah, it is
very Templarish.
Yeah, it is. So, basically, my premise is that the carvings start at the earliest at 1204, and I can tell you why that is, but we'll come back to that. Now, what you're looking at are a few scenarios. This scene is actually called the altar, and that has been dubbed the altar because of the entryway. The original entryway was above. You would have been lowered down on a rope or some kind of a ladder from an inner platform just above these carvings, and there is a demarcation line where it is indicated there had been a platform there. So you would have come down in the dark, been shown the walls. You would have been instructed about Templarism and its hidden dangerous history on these walls. So we don't know what was destroyed when that stairwell and tunnel was put in 1790. We don't know. So what you're facing right now is something that hit me after years of studying Oak Island. You have the Sheila Nagig, which isn't out of place in medieval churches, inns, other structures, and she's the fertility of the land. And then you have what the Uffington horse, and I've not seen this horse described as such, but the Icknield Way runs. It's a ridge of chalk ridge that runs from the northeast to the southwest. And that map is in my book. So if you walk from Royston along that way, you're going to come across a chalk horse in the land that's been there for centuries, predating Christianity.
It's beautiful too.
And it's phenomenal. Now, the Templars would have known that was there, and they had a power base at Bristol port. So they knew this was there, and they incorporated it. So you have this, life was pretty basic at that juncture, at many junctures, because often structures were one room, and multi-generation families live in the same structure. So people lived much closer to the earth. They also honored their family members in their dwellings as they passed away. Things have become much more sterile now. So you're talking about this structure is about life, the creation of life, about the goddess of the earth, if you will, and the sunlight coming in from above, even though it was always hidden from view because it had to be. And that's a longer story. So what you have the old world, and you have the Christian world represented in here. You have both. So these figures do, the Sheila Nagig and the horse, they obscure the swords. The swords have never been identified until myself, and that's provenance is provable if you do your homework. They are a compass that points to locations in the landscape, near and far. You can take that out of the wall. The blades measure the same. The manager at the time measured them for me and confirmed something that was quite something. I'll leave that for those to pick up the book. But I will say this, it indicates Lisbon in Portugal. Portugal is one of the longest standing alliances England has had. 700 something years, if not longer. So it's crazy what this sword
and a serious Templar connection.
Oh yeah, huge.
Yes.
Bernard de Clairvaux, a mastermind behind the Templar Order, his nephew became the first king of Portugal, is basically a Templar state.
That's
and right. So you get an actual working compass, and it's doubled because you'll see a fish. The tail is actually hooked onto the upright blade. You can't really see the whole sword here, but it's in what I call the prayer position. And if you draw a line from that, you'll get another measurement. And I discovered dates, events, and locations with this thing, and also Oak Island, but I won't tell you here how I noticed that. And
We'll
and,
get to
and,
that.
and
We'll get
just
to that.
and just off to the right, you'll see a female figure with a crown floating above her head, and that's Richard the Lionheart's wife, who was Queen of England, but was never crowned in England. So her crown is floating above her head.
Lots of crowns in Royston.
Crowns are specific information, and if you are a monarch, you are the representative, secular representative, chosen by God to rule on earth. And of course, the church is the religious side of that coin. So you don't want to mess with crowns in Royston Cave or at that juncture. Only a monarch. Forgive me, I won't go down that road, but it's not pictured here. So what you have is King David on the left there, and he is holding up his arms. He, of course, is associated with writing the Book of Psalms, and in a late 14th century illumination next to Psalm 69, this figure looks exactly like that, with the arms raised up above, and he is in distress, beseeching God, please save me from my persecutors. This figure is loaded, and I relate it to Cassiopeia, which is the female throne, the Queen of Heaven. And I will dump this on you. The Queen of Heaven was venerated. I've clocked back to the 1100s, Herod of Landsberg, on up through Julius Schiller in the 1600s, who swapped out in his celestial constellation chart Cassiopeia with Mary Magdalene. So I have found several artworks over time venerating Mary Magdalene as Cassiopeia. So what you're looking at is the W, and in the night sky, her throne revolves around the polar star, which is Christ. So this is something that's been long held by the underground stream for many centuries. And she makes an appearance in other places in Royston Cave as well, in a small miniature tomb, but also she makes an appearance as a mermaid, which is something that my skill set as a medieval fantasy wedding dress designer clocked. The structure of the culture going back to this era, you just can't believe how strict it was. Women did not flash their ankles. Everything about how a woman acted, dressed, behaved. Forces of nature like Eleanor of Aquitaine, who is depicted in the cave and is the mother of Richard the Lionheart. She was the wealthiest woman in Europe. She was not to be trifled with. And here's a woman who divorced her first husband, the King of France, because she said to the Pope that he was more monk than man. And here she has so much power that her marriage was dissolved. She got to keep her lands, her titles. She had minimal contact with her two daughters. And not long after that, she married Henry II of England, who was leading from the front, eyes glinting, teeth flashing, warrior, anyway, quite the guy.
He was more man than monk.
Oh yeah. So she is depicted in the cave, and there has never, ever been a doubt that this figure was anyone other than Eleanor of Aquitaine, who was Queen of England. Now, she is wearing a crown that was directly copied by her instructions when she died. She actually had a quite a large speaking voice in her tomb, which is at Fontferrand Abbey. Her family's buried there. She pretty well designed the tomb where her royal family members are buried. Richard Lionheart's wife, Henry II. But she's the only way we know what she looks like today is because of that effigy, the tall crown, and in an active pose of reading. So that figure in Royston Cave, which isn't very large, is the same crown, and it does not predate 1204. Now, today, women like to flaunt their inner queen. Everybody can wear a crown. We're all royalty. Go back then, you put on a crown, you're going to get arrested, socially ostracized if you're lucky, your money taken from you if you're lucky, or you lose your life because you're messing with heresy, God's chosen representative. And everything from top to bottom was measured. The crown heads had all the gold, all the jewels, all the fur. The lower down the totem pole you went, the less bling you get. So everything was weighed and measured. So it was heresy to put that crown on. Nobody would have been foolish enough to do that at that juncture. So, yeah.
Let me hold on. I don't want to get too far ahead of our skis. The original construction. Now, you've suggested very strongly, by the way, that there were at least 3 phases of construction that are layered here.
Yeah.
So going back, I want to establish this for everybody. The first phase, Templar.
Lady
Correct?
Rosia de Vere. And the interesting thing about this is that I believe that the town was spontaneously growing, needing chalk for building projects. Now, we've lost 90% of our secular medieval documents according to a recent university study. We think we know a lot. How much more would we know if that cultural blackout hadn't happened? Right. But I think that a big building construction was happening at that time. Now, Lady Roisia de Vere was 3rd generation French Norman invasion. So she is not from her DNA goes back to France. Her husband's DNA goes back to France, Geoffrey de Mandeville. Everybody's speaking, French. The Saxon ruling elite were kicked out, and everything became French at that juncture. So anyway, the Templars are present. There is evidence of a small chapel dedicated to Saint John, which was independently created by a local lord. I don't remember his name offhand, but then later the Augustinians come in and adopt it, and they were given this land and that private chapel. I believe that original chapel had Templar links. So Lady Roisia de Vere and Geoffrey de Vere, they're digging for chalk to support the local growing town. The Dean hole, which is a bell-shaped hole, gets formalized into a secret shrine, and they just kept it secret. So fast forward to 1204, Lady Roisia disappears from record in 1170. Geoffrey was killed in 1144. So Eleanor of Aquitaine, Queen of England, dies in 1204, and her effigy, her carved figure, is on the walls. Now, just quickly, the reason why this has become such hot news is and the reason why Oak Island filmed me there was because I realized that her maternal family was the very powerful Rochefoucauld family, and their emblem was Melusine, the shape-shifting mermaid dragon, fairy queen, lady of the lake, Arthurian realms. So Eleanor is being depicted in Royston Cave as her maternal family line. I went on about how women were dressed, strict culture. Her dress is nipped in at her ankles, and you can see this flow of fabric come over the edge of an inset niche, but it's not the fabric, it's a tail. She is Melusine, and it is Eleanor of Aquitaine, because we know that from Fontevraud Abbey and her crown and her family background, the family crest of Melusine. So
Is she holding forth a moistened sword?
she should be.
Yeah, she should be.
But I'll tell you, now there's no real proof of this, but the legend that grew up around Eleanor, she heard Bernard de Clairvaux rally the royals at Vézelay, which was dedicated to Mary Magdalene in southern France for the Second Crusade. And Eleanor of Aquitaine was there with her husband at the time, the King of France. And it's said, romanticized, that she dressed as an Amazon and rode to the Holy Land with her husband. And they got into several arguments. She disagreed with strategy. There was, he basically clapped her in irons and sent her back to France. And of course, they made some dreadful, strategic errors. And, that was unfortunate for all sides. But so she was clapped in irons, not, for the first time in her life, but was also clapped in irons by Henry II later in life. So she was a very strong-willed individual, powerful woman.
I'm going to pull up one more quick image just for everybody to see. And I pulled this up. Well, it's what we're talking about. That's the first thing. But the second thing, it's there. You can pick any section of an image like this of the cave and just rest on it for a while. There's so much to take in, isn't there?
It's meant to shock you out of your daily world.
Mm-hmm.
And what in the floor, there is a grave, if you will, where you can lie for 3 days in a tomb and then rise to a new life. Now, we don't know what type of meditation practices they were using. They would have called it prayer at that time. But I think there would have been some pretty powerful interchanges to anyone who had been initiated in this chamber. What you're looking there right now, and it's meant to be boggling, you are actually looking at the crowned figure of Richard the Lionheart, and he is standing next to one of 2 crucifixion scenes. And off to his left, I think I mentioned this earlier, is his wife, who was never crowned in England, so her crown is floating above her head. And you can see a little bit of the fish. Now, they are the Fisher Kings. This is Camelot, and the mermaid and the shape-shifting when threatened into a dragon to call out and protect your descendants is all about being at the top of the food chain of initiation. And Richard was on record. I think he kind of enjoyed the bad boy image from this, which was, hey, ladies, or hey, I'm related to evil. I'm related to the devil. And of course, Melusine always had to preface everything she did in her legends with, I wouldn't be able to raise this church in a week without God. I wouldn't have been able to build this castle in 1 week without God. I wouldn't be able to heal like I'm able to do miraculously without God. So she's always having to say that she's, sorry about her abilities, which go back centuries, and I believe tie into Merove, the Merovingian. And of course, we're getting into some speculation here, but briefly, Melusine told her husband, please don't come and visit me on Saturdays. That's my only condition. I'll marry you, but if you have to promise not to. He does. After having 10 sons with her, being married for many years, he spies on her because his brother says, hey, you know what? Are you so sure about this? What if all your sons are not from the 2 of you? So she realizes that she's been rumbled, and he sees a mermaid in the bathtub. His wife is a mermaid. She's shocked. She's horrified. She turns into a dragon and flees.
That was the thing about Melusine. She turns into a dragon.
Yeah. Now here you have a couple of things going on. Saturday is the Jewish Sabbath, the Jewish day of rest. Melusine has been found out to be part Jewish. So that's quite frightening to the medieval world. But the dragon is all about King Arthur, Pendragon. Arthur means bear. Pendragon is high dragon. So the culture of the dragon is across Europe. The Order of the Dragon, at least five Western kingdoms in Europe tried to adopt Arthur. The original Arthur, I believe, was indeed a Romano-Briton warlord who probably carried aloft a dragon pendant from left over from the Roman period and doing battle with the Saxons that came in. So, there is this culture of the dragon, not only in Europe, but it goes around the world. And this is, I'll just drop this. This is about energy. And what do we all have in common as human beings? The spine. And this is our human heritage. So these were teachings that were being done in secret about the energy that runs up your spine to give you heightened awareness, inner sight, to be able to see with your eyes closed, to perform miracles. Did not Jesus say, "You will produce greater miracles than I"? So, food for thought. And the caduceus symbol is exactly that. So,
well, let me ask you this before we head to the break. So much construction of churches and special sites in England absolutely 100% fall on a line. And you can see it. There's thousands of them in all across Britain, but they fall in line with each other. And I've always found that fascinating. Does Royston fall on one of those lines? Is it an energy center? Is there a reason for its location?
It's a vortex meeting point.
I knew it. Always the vortex.
Yeah.
Always the vortex. So with that, who would determine, okay, we're going to do this right here?
Right. Okay. So we're not going to a break right yet. So I can keep talking?
No. We've 6 minutes to the break.
Oh, excuse me. So now dowsers, this is not, we all stand on the shoulders of someone else. Dowsing these sacred sites, I can't remember his name, bless him, Hamish? Anyway, and also this goes way back to, I want to say Stukely. Now, maybe you remember that. Line of sight is important, because you're talking about archaeoastronomy there, but line of sight, Stonehenge's line of sight for sunrise, but you get the Icknield Way, this long line that cuts from northeast all the way down to St. Michael's Mount in the southwest. And on this are what's been determined to be two energetic lines, that of Archangel Michael with his fiery sword, and the cooler feminine line of Mary. And they converge in Royston Cave, and many sensitive individuals have experiences in the cave. And this is what this cave is about. And it's not alone. I have a lot of experience with man-made sacred spaces and caves in the UK. Their geology, what they can do, what they can't do because of the limestone, the chalk. I have a lot of experience. I was a member of the Margate Shell Grotto Friends Group, trustee for a few years. I lived down the street for a few years from the grotto. And I'll tell you that the high altar in there, is hot. And there are people have a lot of experiences down there. So I digressed, but I've been fortunate enough to have in my hands two scientific surveys, a lot of its original history, and a lot of the works of Mick Twyman as well. We were going to write a book together, but I kept I got sidetracked by other projects that had to do with Oak Island. So I will be getting back to that as well as Zena's map after this. But Royston is one of these hot places. And it's not pretty. It's not pretty like Rosslyn Chapel, but it is just as potent. And it's there for the same reason, the same exact reason. So
now the one last thing, and then we are going to hit a break in about 3 minutes. King Arthur is the other part of this for me that I'm fascinated with, and whether or not King Arthur was a real historical figure, that's been up for debate for a very long time.
yeah.
I'm always, where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's enough established about King Arthur that I think he was a real king. And I think the Round Table was real. I think Camelot was real.
It is real.
Right. That's my take. And when people come along and try to debunk or to poo-poo and try to put this part of the story away, I'm not fully engaged there, Gretchen. So where does King Arthur come into play? You mentioned him a couple of times.
Yeah, this is a round
Royston.
chamber. Think of Royston Cave as a round table. All right, because you're going to stand in this cave and you're going to join hands in a circle, aren't you? Isn't
Yes.
yes,
Sure.
yes. Okay, long story short, Edward III's grandfather, Edward I, created a table which is round. He was a big Arthur fan. Now, I did a whole survey that's in the back of this book that is it's all the Arthurian writers that I could find are listed in the book. And also who was alive at the time historically that was interested in Arthur. And one of those is the Rochefoucauld family. The Rochefoucauld Grail illumination is an amazing document going back to 1348. Anyway, long story short, you've got Edward I, who styled himself as the one king, and that's why he was constantly trying to invade Scotland. So he wanted to rule the British Isles as the High King, and he created a round table that's at the castle Winchester. It's the dendrochronology dating done on that round table that's high up in the air. Goes back to his time. Now, Henry VIII came along, repainted it, and put his face on it because he wanted to be Arthur too. But so in 1348, Edward III, the grandson of Edward I, creates the Order of the Garter, and its symbol is a round belt for your thigh. And the legend goes that he was, dancing, if you will, with a lady of the court, and her garter that held up her stocking fell off. Shock, horror. So he picks it up, according to legend, puts it on his own leg, and says, basically, shame on him who thinks evil of it. And that became the emblem, this round blue garter belt for the most powerful, still prestigious knightly order in the world. And that is only the monarchs of England can invite somebody to be a lifelong member. So that's 1348. Now there's a brick inside the cave that's dated to 1347, which I believe that's when bless him, Edward was doing the third was doing his big thinking about his order, his Arthurian order. So that was 1347. Nothing comes out of the ground quickly. There's always a Genesis story. So 1347 is the date on the brick in the cave, one of the reasons why I was filmed there. But it's all about chivalry, and it's all about, and interestingly enough, he's in living memory of the Templars. And he actually, when he gets older, long story short, uses his lawyers to take over properties that the Hospitallers absorbed when the Templars were disbanded by the Pope in respectively 1312 was the death and execution of Jacques de Molay, and in 1314 the order was officially disbanded. And those properties were all supposed to go to the Hospitallers, but a lot of the people that, powerful people that gave lands to the Templar fought that, and it tied up property disputes for like decades. But along comes Edward III, and he literally takes churches and properties that were owned by the Templars, fell into the hands of the Hospitallers, away from them with his lawyers, and a few of them remained a protectorate properties until about 1830, and then were ceded to the Anglican Church at that time. So Edward III was looking for the Templars, and I believe because he was in living memory of them, I'm going to get this wrong, I think he might have been born in 1312. And he became, king by force of his own hand. Exciting story. At the age of 18, he storms Nottingham Castle, which is riddled with hidden caves and tunnels below in chalk. And a small group of dedicated men sieges that castle, takes it from his mother, bless her, who was probably pregnant by, I think his name is Lord Mortimer. So they arrest him, execute him. He becomes king. She gets put under house arrest for the rest of her life. Quite the tale of adventure. But he actually builds on Windsor Castle and creates the round tower that you see today. So
Yes, that's right.
What else do you need?
Fantastic. Gretchen, stay right there. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Gretchen Cornwell is with us. We're talking about Royston Cave, the Templars, and now when we come back, we'll talk about that connection back to Oak Island. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Gretchen, stay right there. This is Fade to Black. And I'm doing my work. Okay, let me try this one more time. This is supposed to, run smoothly. Gretchen, stay right there. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Watch Into the Vortex on TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? Go to JChurchRadio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Gretchen Cornwell is with us live from England, by the way, from the UK. And tonight we're talking about Royston Cave in Royston, UK, and its connections to the Knights Templar and others. It's an extraordinary cave. And then, of course, all the way over to here and Oak Island. Now, the book is called The Curse of Oak Island's Templar Cave, Royston. The links for that are below over on our website and throughout social media. Gretchen, connecting all of this, laying out Oak Island, which, in a weird way, this is how I offend half of my audience in one statement, right? In a weird way, I almost wish they left the island alone. In a weird way, right? Some things are not, they're meant to stay a mystery. But my fascination with Oak Island goes back before all of this happened. But now more and more is being revealed, and there's a lot of great researchers around the world like yourself that can take all of this and start to connect the dots. And that's what you have done.
We're trying. Now, I've always viewed, I was interviewed in 2018 for Nolan's Cross, which is incredible. Its central piece, the headstone is, I believe represents John the Baptist. So that was a great breakthrough for myself. I believe it is Templar. It is an outdoor cathedral, and it is a holy island. So I understand your hesitancy of not wishing to desecrate that sacred ground. And I believe there is enough evidence to prove a early travel. And going back to, of course, the Vikings, I've done a whole piece on that, three episodes on my YouTube channel. My 2022 Royston Cave segment is on my YouTube channel as well, if anyone wants to go to watch that. But it is holy ground. It is an island of Avalon, an Isle of Avalon. And it is... how do I've shared so much tonight. I should leave something for the book. But the date 1347 is on the map that Zena Halpern presented to the world in her book. The map is controversial. I am a bystander with my own researcher. A lot of people have accidentally thought over the years that I'm an inner circle person. I'm not. But they have their own team of inner researchers who have poured a lot of energy into it. And of course, it's in the public domain as far as anybody picking it up and wanting to research it. So I put my eye on it and realized that Royston Cave had the date 1347 potentially connected to it. The date 1347 is on the map. The name Rochefoucauld is across the upper right-hand corner, and their family emblem is Melusine, the mermaid. After the fabulous Doug Kroll, historian on the island, brought Rochefoucauld to the table, I was just so excited and inspired. So I went to France. I went to Chateau de la Rochefoucauld, and I found a Leonardo da Vinci stairwell. And on that stairwell is a treasure chest, if you will. It's quite large, potentially of the same era. And on the front of it is a carving of Melusine in mid-change, and her arms are upraised in the same position as King David is in Royston Cave. And that's in my book. So it's quite shocking. What else? So you've got the Rochefacaulds, you've got 1347. Now, the measurements of the swords directly tie to Oak Island. And I'll leave you with that.
Well, how so? How so? How
Oh,
so?
you're gonna make me do it.
Well,
All
it's my
right.
job, and
All
I've
right.
never failed at
Well,
that
look,
job.
I love this topic, and of course, selling books is my livelihood. And when sales slump for one reason or another, somebody walking off with my research and filming it or whatever, I suffer because I'm independent. I'm an independent.
Right.
So, but I came on tonight partly just to set a few things straight. So I'm going to go ahead and put this out here. Each one of the blades that you saw, which the compass, those two swords are a compass, and I've decided to call it the compass, the Excalibur Compass for King Arthur. And the upright sword, you can't see it here, the pommel, the hilt has been cut off, been abbreviated. It was painted red at one point. So it's a fiery sword. That blade measures 44 inches. Both of them do. And now I know this is a little bit hard to take on, but it's 44 nautical miles from Jerusalem to Oak Island. So that's interesting. That's interesting.
Very.
Yeah. Now there is an octagonal dropped floor in Royston. It measures 44 inches on one side. So these are some of these astonishing things that I've come across. Now, were measurements different at that juncture? Yes. However, I will say this, I'm working on this, but I do think that they knew where they were going. I don't think it was as much of a mystery as, we like to say it is today. I think they understood latitude, longitude to a decent enough degree. I think that they had the Viking runestone, sunstone, the Viking sunstone. Now you might remember what that is. So the Viking culture flows into Paris, and Rollo is made a duke. He's a Viking. He marries into the royal family of Paris, and basically the king said, "Look, I can't keep defending this city. It was already sacked. I might as well, take this man on as my son-in-law and have him protect my front door from his kin." So the Duchy of Normandy is born. The sunstone, Viking sunstone, which helps you find the sun on a cloudy day, gets transmitted into the state secrets of the royal throne of France. A Viking sunstone was found on an Elizabethan sunken warship off the coastline of France in 2006. I might have that slightly wrong. So anyway, these state secrets that you could get killed for, the secrets of navigation, were being used. I did some research on a character called Peter de Maricourt, who was talking about the properties of the magnetic compass, and this goes way back. His paper on the magnetic compass was used up until the 1700s, such as its scientific accuracy at the time. But anyway, I'm waffling. There's a lot of precedent, I believe, for early medieval travel that was more accurate than we give it credit for today. Pope Sylvester, had a round celestial sphere. There are plenty of medieval paintings that show Earth as a sphere. They knew where they were going. And if you don't believe that, all they had to do was island hop. So you go from, and the Norse were doing this. Laxan Meadows dates to 1020. It is a bona fide Viking settlement called a ship repair station, implying multiple ships needing a ship repair station. Then you have the 1348 monk of Baffin Island, who looks suspiciously like a cavalry Templar knight, and that's 1348. That kind of ties in with Royston again. So there's a littered field of all these pieces of evidence that the academic community is really just afraid to piece together in a common sense form. We all need academia. We must follow academic protocols, but we also need to open our eyes just a little bit and accept that our ancestors might have been a little smarter than we give them credit for being today.
How many trips do you think they were taking from Europe, specifically, Britain?
That's tough.
Over to North America. I
Yeah.
mean, was it just a common thing to do at one point?
I think it was not on a bus schedule as we would think of it today. Not everybody made it, but enough made it. Now, by 600, the French had killed off their bear. Now, bears are important for their fur because it just gets cold sometimes, doesn't it? Now, bear fur becomes a high status symbol. So the King of France puts a lot of money into the port of Dieppe. And also a silent, quiet war starts brewing where vessels loosely around the time of the Vikings, they were the ones that had the ships, and they knew the waters. We know that the Portuguese were in those waters in the 1400s fishing for fish and bringing them back. So it was also about bog standard resources. The Norse were looking for lumber. They were looking for fur. The English were looking for fur because they needed fur as well. So it became a status symbol to have bear fur, etc. So this goes all the way back to loosely. You're starting, and I'm hedging my bets here, around 800 AD. So this silent war starts brewing up, and you get repeated visits over long periods of time.
Am I understanding? Oh, okay. Oh, this is crazy for me to get my mind working like this. Are you suggesting that at 800 AD there was some transoceanic action going on?
I can't prove that, but I think it's likely because you have Rollo. Now, if you look at a map of France and you look at these river systems, and Paris falls to Rollo, now Chateau de la Rochefoucauld is east of Angoulême, which was an important capital city of the Merovingians. Now Angoulême gets hit by the Vikings, and Foucauld of the Rock, he is basically, if you will, the first Rochefoucauld. Foucauld's Rock, or Roche in French meaning rock. So Foucauld's Rock, he builds a castle east of Angoulême. That family has been there 900 years. And it's a 4-hour drive from that chateau to the coast. So that's phenomenal that Vikings went down the Atlantic and then penetrated with their longboats, the smaller ones, because you've got to, all the way into Angoulême via their river systems.
Yeah,
these people
that's
were
what they did. Gretchen, I'm just going to say this. Most people do and which is fine, but they do the research at a very general level. Most people that are into this stuff, they don't know that the Vikings invaded Paris. Think about that. That's crazy that they went that far into Europe, and it's something that just isn't front page news for research.
They changed Europe. They penetrated into most of the waterways of Europe. We should be saying, where did they not go?
Right. Can you imagine how terrifying that must have been?
Oh, they were frightening. Now I read one researcher, say, oh, they weren't that tall. They were only 5'10". Most men at that time were lucky to hit 5'5". The women were 5 feet tall if they were lucky. So
And
don't tell me
they
that
weren't nice. They weren't
no, they
nice either.
weren't. No, they
No, no.
weren't. And you know, they were experiencing lack of food. Norway, go look at you know, videos of Norway, and then you get the picture pretty quick. It's a bleak landscape. They had to leave. They had to conquer the water, or they were going to die. Pure and simple. You know, the Danes are some of the tallest people in the world. I think aside from the Zulu tribe, I'm sure somebody will clock me on that. But they were ferocious. They mastered the waters, and then they end up becoming royalized. They end up becoming part of the Templar story. Fast forward to Acre or Acre in Israel, the last stronghold of the Knights Templar. You know, the engineering ability of these people was off the chain, but the Templars were allied with the Venetians as well. And the Venetian quarter in Acre or Acre was right next door to the Templars. So, you know, the Venetians were also ferocious and tied to this landscape, this waterscape. But no, you know, at first I would say that going to North America would have been to trade. Now, I was privileged in 2019 to have been on the Mohican Reservation for 10 days with the permission of the president. I met the language expert. I felt changed and humbled being there. I learned quite a lot. They are a high-level, you know, tribe, a grandfather tribe. You read into their history, and it is said that on the eastern seaboard, the Mohicans could call up 20,000 warriors very quickly, and probably from other tribes as well. So, you know, you get some early Viking incursions. They're not going in there and busting up the beach with their swords or their hammers or mallets or whatever they've got. They're going to be polite, and they're going to be trading. And I believe they did trade. And I believe it was probably fairly peaceful initially, but, you know, the tribes were actually very warlike amongst each other. And I believe that a lot of early travelers got caught up between these tribal disputes and probably didn't fare very well. Now, one of the interesting things that came out of that journey, and I'm one of a few ultimately a couple of researchers. My co-author is Juan. John Edwards is an amazing co-author for Codes of the Hidden King that came out in March 2026. I spent 2+ years on that thing as the lead writer, but he, you know, we both realized, and there was a third co-author as well, a historic code breaker, a cipher code breaker. But we realized that they penetrated deep amongst the tribes along the St. Lawrence River Valley.
Wow.
And the only way they could have penetrated inland as far as they did is if they had made alliances. And the assumption we came up with, and I've written this down somewhere, forgive me for it. It's been a while since I've looked at that material. I don't remember everything. But basically, there would have been relay stations where eventually there would have been Europeans in forts holding down their fort while trading with Native Americans who would bring them furs. Because it was just too dangerous for them to go out there. And then they would take those furs on barges back up to their main ships, up the St. Lawrence, you know, river mouth, which is huge, and then back to Europe. But a colleague of ours, Alessandra Nadudvari, is the owner of New Ross Castle in Nova Scotia. thought to be the castle of Earl Henry Sinclair, who voyaged to North America in the late 1380s to the New World. And there is a huge stone foundation there that she and her husband are in possession of. And they found a Templar cross pate, what looks like a boundary marker, which is now in a museum to be cared for and looked after. And it was a privilege to be there to view that site. Now, she actually came up with the incredible idea that Detroit is actually a Destroit from France. Location in France. So there's a lot of activity, and
It's
it's
always
just,
that, what's funny to me? It's always the same names and locations that
yeah,
constantly come up in this research. You mentioned Acre earlier.
yeah.
Acre is fascinating on all fronts. But here's a little side note. Acre is where Napoleon lost his first battle.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Acre.
I
Man,
did not know that.
he walked through Italy, right? He raided the Vatican. By the way, little side note on history. The Vatican, what's to be, Napoleon went there and took all the good stuff and took it to France.
And he didn't give it back.
No, did not give it back. So then after that, he's rolling, he's 28, 29 years old, cocky, goes to Egypt, does his thing there and changes history. While he's in Egypt, he's like, man, I'm in the mood for a battle. I'm going to go up to Acre. So he goes up to Acre.
Wow.
Spends a year there. Gets his butt kicked. The plague hits his army and some other stuff, but he lost, and he had to go back to Cairo with what he had left. But it was Acre that defeated Napoleon. And now you bring up the Sinclairs, right? It's always, let's continue to connect these dots. There's something really historically important here, isn't there?
These families are important. They're related. Now, of course, as you know, Napoleon adopts the Merovingian bee and has 300 of them embroidered on his coronation robe. He is adopting that persona for a reason. And of course, he keeps all the good stuff. The research I did for Codes of the Hidden King, which is the book that came out earlier this year, I visited Fontainebleau, the palace, which was created by the King Francis, who was the patron saint, oh my goodness, forgive me, patron of Leonardo da Vinci. And he called to him at Fontainebleau a team of Italian artists, and he created he created a rival to Rome. He created a Enlightenment Rome outside of the Vatican. And Napoleon takes it over as his court away from Paris. And there's a wonderful suite of rooms there where you can see his throne. It's a small throne room, but he's put a stamp on Fontainebleau, who had fostered Leonardo da Vinci. And of course, Leonardo designed the stairwell at Chateau de la Rochefoucauld. It's crazy.
Napoleon appreciated art. Most people think about war and stuff. He was a patron of the arts. It's so much so. All right, here's another nugget for the audience. Gretchen, you probably know this. Napoleon sees the Mona Lisa, right? Takes it for himself, hangs it in his bathroom.
I forgot about that.
That is fact. So
Whoa.
when he was doing his business, he was looking at the Mona Lisa.
Mm,
Yeah. So
mm.
anyway, little side note, speaking of, the Fontainebleau and what was done there with Napoleon. So yeah, for like 2 years, he ended up
Amazing.
returning it to the Louvre.
Yeah.
But yeah. How much of a baller are you when you can see something like a Da Vinci, the Mona Lisa specifically, and go, you know what? Taking this home for a minute.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, well, we exist, human beings are of the earth, we procreate. Art elevates the story of creation, hopefully, and from the sublime to the lewd. Um, the
Yes. So
It
well
is,
said. Wow,
yeah.
wow, wow, wow.
So, and what Bernard de Clairvaux, Eleanor of Aquitaine, and and through the chivalry movement of Edward III, tried to refine the baser elements in human beings, and to be illuminated, to be a well, it's is it might, might for right, or might is right. So all our movies, our stories of humanity, it's always about the hero with the good heart. And that is always or should be our aspiration. We may not be able to avoid war or individual physical conflict, but it's always about trying to refine the character of the human being. Does humanity fail? Oh, sure, every day, but does humanity also triumph? Yes, every day. And all we have to do is look around us for the beauty, the good, the strength, and the honor.
Isn't that all represented in Royston?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very inspiring.
I mean, you've got Mary there, right? You've got saints that are represented alongside
Yeah.
swords and a crucifixion. So you have all of those things represented that you just stated on the walls
Mm,
in Royston Cave.
yeah, and one of the dating factors on it is really interesting, and they until recently, this particular grouping of carvings, until recently, until, my colleague, John Edwards, actually spotted this. He identified the 14 holy helpers, and they came about in Germany during the plague of 1347. Now, what are those 14 individuals, which, and you can clock them right to left, or left to right, they're all there. How did they end up there? Because the plague was coming to England, and it did hit in 1348. But the procession of how it got from Germany to England would have probably been through the Hanseatic League and trading, and the everybody wanted an edge. There was, medicine. Are you kidding? So you cross your fingers and you pray and put everything you've got into it, unless you had herbal lore and knew how to, Nostradamus treated plague victims and lived. But so there they are, 1347. The 14 holy helpers. You've got Melusine, Eleanor of Aquitaine, who dies in 1204. The armor is starting to shift into plate armor, which is edging into Edward III's time frame. The Templars wore chain mail with hauberks, padded hauberks. It was rare to, there really wasn't plate armor during the time, the historic time of the Templars for their 200-year period of time. So the armor in the cave is tending towards the mid to late 1300s as well. So there's a lot that goes into dating the cave. You get the image of Saint George in the cave, who is the patron saint of the Order of the Garter, whose colors are white with a red cross, and those are Templar colors, you know. But he's pictured over my shoulder, just behind me. I don't know if you can see him or not, but he's over my shoulder, the figure holding the upright sword. So, but that's Saint George, and his
Was anybody ever was anybody buried in the cave?
now a skull was found when the cave was excavated very badly. I mean, you know, basically they moved the millstone, they lowered somebody down in there with torches. They were looking for treasure, but I also think that the cave was closed 90 years prior, at the start of the English Civil War, because you know, this thing was a hot potato. It had a combination of heretical imagery, of Catholic mixed with Protestant, and you know, the poor Europe was bound up in horrible wars over who was right, who was wrong when it comes to religion. Really, just dire stuff. So I think it was sealed at the beginning, and I think it was sealed multiple times. But the last inhabitants down there, I think, would have been James one of England, the son of Mary Stuart, who took over after Elizabeth died with no heir. He was, by legend, a Freemason out of Scotland. He took over the town of Royston. Some people say Royston gets its name from him. That is actually, you know, not true. Roy's town, that would have been a spelling of ROI, the French meaning king. Ton, town, you know, could have been, but it was already called that going back earlier. But he brought in 300 retainers and took over this small but important royal market town, and it exploded inside. He built a palace there, modest, I would say. And there are his counselors in London complain that they have to tread up there 50 miles to get him to sign documents. But I think that it was closed at the beginning of the Civil War, or after his death. The Civil War was about Charles, you know, the first. So anyway, and then 90 years pass, and that's 3 generations. So a generation is 30 years. I believe it was a sacred trust. They knew what they were looking for. And the reason why I cast suspicion on this is because the Margate Shell Grotto also has a very dubious discovery story that actually morphs and changes depending on which account you're looking at. So, and I think that's what happened with Royston. They knew it was there. So what happened is they buried the carvings. So when they lowered themselves down, they started digging and hauling up the dirt, and it revealed the carvings. And they were looking for treasure, of course, too. Who wouldn't want to? Maybe there is treasure down there. What they found, why the heck not? So, you know, might be their lucky day. But they found a human skull, which has since disappeared.
That was my next question. Where's the skull?
It's gone. You know,
of course.
It's gone. Yeah.
Just like that, you know, the one critical piece of Oak Island, right? The stone, which was on display allegedly for a while at some bookstore, whatever, you know, going
yeah.
It's gone. It's gone. It's missing.
Yeah,
the one thing. What about when I see Royston, when I see the walls of Royston, I'm going to bring up this image again for everybody. I see nothing but a written code all over everything. What can you say? Have you it's a lot to decipher.
Some of
What?
this is a known quantity by prior scholars. Some scholars early on argued it's a little amusing, but the royal.
Let me hold on, hold on, hold on.
My
I need to
apologies.
get it. No, I got to get inside your head. So much of it is directly over the beautiful carvings.
Yeah, vandals. So basically, at various junctures, this thing was left unattended. They put in the tunnel, which is actually across the street from where the structure actually sits. So it's a little steep, it's not bad, but this is done in 1790. The tunnel is put in for easier access, and basically the man who owned it with the key would just kind of give it out for a few pence, and at times I think it was probably just broken into as well, and people were scrawling their initials on it. But interestingly enough, the main carvings remained. Chalk is fragile. It does shatter over time. But interestingly enough, even though there is a lot of graffiti, and people
Mhm.
would come in and carve little tiny crosses. So there is a sense of the reverential in here that people felt when they went in there, and they tons of graffiti all over the place, but not a lot of destruction. Now, basically, I did it. A lot of the carvings were identified by prior scholars. The main heavy hitter is Sylvia Beeman, who, bless her, she was incredible, and she was part of an archaeology study that was done. Her book is out of print, very expensive to buy. And also the manager of the structure for like 17 years, I can't remember his name, Holdall, I'm going to slaughter his name, bless him. It's in my book. But he was the manager of the site for 17 years. He was a retired engineer, and he made some incredible discoveries. So out of the 12 books that are out there, I'm two of those. And I'm proud and privileged to have said as much. But I did a complete survey, taking on board what they did, my own training and research. And I've got an entire list of all the carvings in the book. And what I've suggested to people is they go to the Royston Cave website, to the virtual reality, and you use my book, starting from Eleanor's carving of the mermaid. Slightly off to the left of that is a man holding a skull and what appears to be a candle. He is the initiate. He might be from the time of James's Freemason impetus. The rest of the carvings seem to follow the same artistic hand. Now, granted, there is some skill there. It's not pretty. That individual probably had a day job. But I do a complete survey, follow the virtual reality. It's incredible. I even identified a few more axes that Sylvia Beeman found one. I found a few more. Now, the axe looks like a modern day umbrella with a heart, but it actually comes from the Middle East on Templar graves, grave slabs. This umbrella shape is actually an axe, and it means you've conquered death spiritually, which is interesting. So there you have again violent death mixed with spirituality again, and there are hearts all over the place, and hands with hearts in them. So you're supposed to come with an open heart and with and leave changed. So
What's the Freemason connection?
well, I think that the Freemasons recognized the Templar, what I call Templarism, in the cave, and they hearken, now a lot of people say there's no proof academically that the Freemasons or the Rosicrucians go back to the Knights Templar. But like you, smoke there's fire. I think that traditions were passed down, became localized traditions, but were still recognized across kingdoms in Europe. But, so here you have, James I of Scotland stopping at this important crossroads where Lady Roysia's cross had been. We don't know what it used to look like, but marking pretty much on the spot where the cave is. And he either knew about it, was shown, or was guided there. So how many kings or queens were initiated there spiritually? And he sees the carving of King David and makes his own assumptions. Now, yes, okay, we don't know entirely what Freemasonry looked at that time. Was it true that he was initiated into the craft in Scotland? These are legends, but it's darned interesting. Why did he choose this crossroads to plant his hunting lodge? Now, this does tie into the book that Codes of the Hidden King that came out in March. He makes a strong appearance in there because of his interesting relationship to Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon, I believe, was a hidden Rosicrucian. And
could be.
So
That's
anyway,
not off the table. I like that.
So there's no proof, but if James was in Royston, so was Francis Bacon. So it gets interesting at that juncture.
I know that you've seen Joseph Beldam's book from the late 1800s. Just like the drawings, the French drawings, and of course the British drawings of Egypt when they first arrived there, those are the most telling for me. What did they see originally when stuff was in situ? Right.
Yeah.
And Beldam's book is just what impacted him. Well, the drawings, but he's definitely got compass references there. He's got crowns all over the place in his book and what he saw originally there. And I think that is also very telling. I bring it up because you just mentioned how many kings or queens visited this cave.
Yeah.
Apparently
Mary
a lot.
Stuart Marie of Guise processed through here with the permission of the then King of England, Edward III. Anyway, a young king, but she was allowed. Marie of Guise, Mary Stuart's mother, was allowed, and Queen of Scotland from France. The Guise family was powerful. But she goes through there and is entertained by, the local lord. Anyway, that's in my book as well. But these families are all intertwined. England was ruled by the French. By William the Conqueror was the last great Viking raid. After that, Viking raids ceased because it became a royalized scenario, and his cousins up the way in York had pretty much taken over Jorvik. Poor Harold, poor Harold, who got an arrow in his eye for his troubles. But forgive me, I digress. But yeah, there's a lot on the walls. It is
were they colored? What? You know what I mean? Were they painted?
Yes, there's evidence, the archaeology study that was done on the cave during Sylvia Beeman's time found paint. You can't see it with a naked eye, but it was there. So it could have been a riot of color. Now, the front of Canterbury Cathedral was completely painted at one point. It was a riot of cinematic, movie awe-inspiring, storytelling. The mega movies of its day. These were the most important buildings and locations meant to cause a reaction within the human psyche, either in a cave of secret alchemy practices. There are two types of alchemy. There's the inner meditation alchemy, where one is working on the gold of the soul, or trying to turn lead into gold. But that, how many people have actually succeeded at that? They kept it quiet if they did succeed. But it's all about the alchemy of the soul, and it's in Royston Cave. And it was heretical because what it does is it replaces the need for a priest. None of us need a priest to get to heaven, and women don't need a husband to get to heaven. We are sovereign, independent beings in our own right. And, the divine feminine, the divine masculine, both are needed for creation on earth, and both are represented both in the profane form and the exalted form in this cave. So,
can I ask you, the question on everybody's mind? It's the big one when it comes to Oak Island, the Sinclairs, Rosslyn Chapel, Royston. All of this comes into play all the way back to Jerusalem. What do you think? This is your research. I want to know what your feelings on this. What do you think the Templars took to Oak Island? What is there? If you are a betting person, if you went to Vegas and you laid the money down.
Well, quite some time ago, I did raise the issue of the Ark. I don't remember if it ended up on the 2018 interview or not. But that, certainly, it's a riot of tunnels down under Temple Mount. Nobody's allowed to go in there and excavate. Sword shards were found. Other Crusader items were found. Here they are, this group of 9 knights, effectively. Hugh de Payan, who becomes the first Grand Master. They're there for 9 years, potentially digging. Now, what I will say is that, in brief, they actually did serve a function of protecting the roads through the economy by changing people's money. You would receive a coded chit to take to the next Templar location. This is later on down the road. You could trust them with your money. You could trust them with your life. If you hired them to take you across the Mediterranean, they weren't going to slit your throat, throw you overboard, and take your money. You could trust them. Now, I believe that they absolutely were protecting the forgive me, the port of, I always put an R in it for some reason, Jaffa, the all-important port where you land on the Mediterranean. There's that road up from that to Jerusalem. It's rocky. It's hilly. It's full of ravines. It's dangerous. And the Bedouins who were patrolling, it was their turf. They were slaughtering pilgrims left, right, and center. So were those original 9 knights trying to patrol those lands? I think so. So at the time, the king of Jerusalem, he's only got 300 men there to protect the city. He's afraid that's going to get out. He's not going to be able to hold that city against the population base there. So, enter this incredible individual that is Hugh de Payan, the vassal of his liege lord Hugh, Count of Champagne, friend of Bernard de Clairvaux. These guys do patrol that land, and they're worried about the dead bodies of pilgrims that are littering the landscape there. But they do excavate, and they go back to Bernard de Clairvaux. They meet with him, and then he says, right, okay, let's go. And he is a scholar. Bernard de Clairvaux is a scholar. That man is incredible. He's one of my historic heroes. He talked to 30 of his male relatives, most of them older, married with castles and children and rich and successful, to drop everything they were doing and go into the failing Cistercian order and revitalize its two failing houses, and then turns around and it helps Hugh de Payne mastermind the Templar Knight Order. The Templars are Cistercians with swords. They are a cultural movement. Eleanor of Aquitaine joins that movement as well. Long story short, they take back, I believe, documents. They're looking for their heritage. Christianity started in Jerusalem. It started there. It's not a European thing. It became a European thing. And if they believed they were related to him, to Jesus, to Mary Magdalene, in their minds, they were going home. They wanted to get to the root cause of it all. And the background of the Crusades is so complex, and it goes back a few centuries. It goes back 4 centuries. So unfortunately, there was a lot of pressure against Europe as well. In 1630, Muhammad has his revelation of Allah, and quickly Islam takes off from the Red Sea, and he pulls together, and his next generation pull together disparate tribes, and they go up the coast of the Red Sea. They tackle the Holy Land, if you will, and cross Gibraltar in 730. And the Visigothic king Raymond dies at their hands at that invasion, and of course all of Spain is consumed. They move up into France in a strong manner, and it takes 5 generations of Charlemagne's family to regain those lands, if you will. Now, if you find this controversial, forgive me, it's not meant to be. And then you go to Constantinople. There was a lot of pressure there, and eventually Constantinople falls. So you've got this pincher movement from the Strait of Gibraltar all the way across to now Istanbul. And the incursion into Eastern Europe that was repelled by Vlad Dracul nearly single-handedly to retain the integrity of the indigenous population of Europe. So it's complex, it's long. So when you get these crusaders going into Jerusalem, it's complex. It's a tough thing to handle in this day and age. I will say that a lot of heroism happened on both sides. Saladin was incredible.
Oh,
And,
I can't imagine
that man, oh my
going through that.
goodness, he was smart, educated. There's a lot of educated, Spain, Muslim Spain, Islamic Spain was filled with education that flowed up into, the rest of Europe. And was embraced, and the brick that is debated in the cave, which looks modern, 1347. Well, it could be a memorial date, but it also may have been carved at the time, because Pope Sylvester, who died in 1003, was embracing. He had studied in Islamic Spain astronomy and the Arabic, Indian number system, because the Latin numbering system was a pain in the keister, to keep track of. And there's only a little bit of real estate on that brick for 4 numbers. And so that Pope did encourage that numbering system that came out of India and spread through the Islamic world. They did not shy away from science. they didn't. The world can benefit and did benefit from that. Now, did other things happen? Yeah, the culture clash of Europe and the Islamic world that's a tough one, and there's so much debate about it today. I get flack now and then from it. I've been trolled by different groups, but this is our history. It happened.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure, for sure.
you know,
Could
do
you
we,
imagine? Could you imagine? And I know you have. If the Ark is found, let's say it's Oak Island, but the most important religious relic and symbol in history, which is missing.
Yeah.
If what happens to the world? Wow,
Now,
wow. I
yeah.
don't know. And could it be at Oak Island? There's talk of it being at Elephantine Island in Egypt, and of course somewhere in Africa.
Ethiopia. Yeah,
Yeah, Ethiopia.
Ethiopia. There's been a lot of wonderful research done on that by Graham Hancock, of course, and
Hmm. Hmm.
others. But yeah, I have a colleague close to me who has done a lot of work on the Ark, a couple actually, and research I won't go into. But the Grail and an Ark can be many things. The Grail can be a human being. The Grail can be a cup. The Grail can be a platter. The Ark is a vessel. The Ark can be considered a Grail as well. So I fully believe that Francis Bacon actually built his own Ark. Now, is the original Ark on Oak Island? Why not? Going back a few years into 2015, Alan Butler was saying that in the Freemason degree of Enoch, the money pit, which is circular, according to legend, not far off from the dimensions of Royston Cave, is the Enoch degree in Freemasonry is all about rehearsing how to retrieve the Ark of the Covenant, according to Alan Butler. So, a lot of researchers have been putting their elbow grease into the money pit, and is the Ark there? And I really do believe that Nolan's Cross is a giant outdoor cathedral. Did they plan to come back and build an actual cathedral? Maybe they did. I think that might have been the case had they been successful early enough. Is it a measuring tool to help us find the Ark on the island? And a lot of people are working on that. I'm not a cartographer. I did my best in 2018 by likening it to Cygnus the Swan, which looks, the Southern Cross, and gave my best stab at it, but and came up with the concept of the offside chamber as well. But so to cut to the chase, yes, and it very well could be that the Ark had been stored at Saint Denis, not far, from the center of Paris. The stained glass windows there have a particular color blue, which has been considered to be quite mysterious. The Ark is said to have been covered by blue fabric, and the blue glass windows have been considered a mystery. I have since, now maybe others know this already, but it takes copper to make that color blue. And guess who was mining copper in North America? Guess who was mining copper in North America?
I've got 5 answers for that.
Okay, I'll give you one. Now,
Yes.
that would have been King Sigurd of Norway, and he brought his fleet 1099 to the aid of Jerusalem. He brought with him I'm going to get this wrong. Thousands of men. They needed arrows, and it takes time to launch a project like that. You need men, you need weapons. King Sigurd, I believe, knew of the wealth available in the Great Lakes, and there is evidence. Now, your friend Scott Walter did some great work on copper in the Great Lakes. The deceased Philip Copens, who sadly died too young, was pegged that one down too. Copper mining. So, what do you need copper for? It was actually incredibly necessary if you need an arrow and if you're going to go into battle. You line your arrow with verdigris, which is a byproduct of copper, so that little critters don't eat your feathered arrow before you get to the battle scene. So no, that was 1099. So he helps the king with the battle there. He goes to quickly, then goes off to Constantinople to aid the king there, leaves his ships there to aid the efforts there. The Doge of Venice also came to the aid of the king of Jerusalem with his fleet. Later, the Venetians would form an alliance with the Templars. But at that juncture, there hadn't been one. So anyway, the ruler of Constantinople gives King Sigurd horses to return back home. He hoofs it back to home, builds refurbishes a church at the time. But yeah, so copper mining in the Great Lakes. So that means the Europeans had penetrated from, I believe, the year 800-ish, all the way into the St. Lawrence River system via Native American alliances, all the way to what we now know as Wisconsin, where the famous Kensington runestone. If you land in on Wisconsin, you have to look at the maps. You head east where the Kensington runestone was buried 200 miles inland, and I think that might have been as far as they got. Now that's Scott Walter did some great work on that. Is it a fraud? I like to think where there's some smoke, there's some fire.
I don't think that Kensington. Yeah, I think that's a real object.
Yeah, I like to think it is too. I think it's quite clear the progression from the early days of the early, Norse going going into the Danes, going into those lands, setting up relay stations, starting with and going inland, and then probably getting in a little over their head and getting caught up in tribal wars between and not making it out again. So, and then years later.
For sure. I'll say this about the Kensington runestone, and I've said this to Scott too as well, who's texted me 3 times during this show today. He's
done marvelous work.
He's the best. He's the best.
Well, we owe this to him. We owe this to him. Cards. Yeah. We have him to thank for Mary Magdalene, hand sign.
Let me say this about the yes. The Kensington runestone, when it was discovered, today we are completely blinded by the access to information. We have access to information all over the place. But to be a linguist at that period of history, to accurately hoax a stone like that is impossible.
Yeah.
It cannot be done.
I agree.
Period. And that's what makes the Kensington runestone, in my eyes, authentic. And I'll fight that. And it's one of the, you can look at the alphabet, you can transcribe, you can decode it, you can do all of that. But to do that, to create that 150 years ago, impossible.
Yeah.
There's no way that you would know language like that and to make it accurate. That's my take.
And that poor man who discovered it, I don't recall his name offhand, he did not fare well from the scenario. He was taken advantage of. I think he had a pretty rough life. Now, this is a man who discovered something profound, and others came in and took advantage of him, I think. But, I think that's probably as far as the Vikings got. Now, there are indications further west, as Scott well knows. Louis, I'm going to mess up his last names, who found some interesting carvings, in the desert of America. But they were there. They were bold, they were gifted, they were intelligent, they were no holds barred, and they changed the landscape of not only just Europe but North America, and why they don't want to. Why they don't want it to be confirmed as real? Because Scandinavia would own the United States. Maybe they should own the United States.
Gretchen, where can everybody follow your work?
Oh, thank you. GretchenCornwell.com. Please visit my YouTube channel where you can see the Oak Island episode on Royston Cave. My books, the links to Amazon are on my website. I'm always haunting Facebook. If you'd like to send me a friend request on Facebook, I spend too much time there. So send me a line.
So great to talk to you again.
Real privilege.
I look forward to our next conversation. Thank you so much, Gretchen, and your contributions to this community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and everyone listening. Thank you.
Gretchen Cornwell, everybody. Thank you so much, Gretchen. Enjoy the rest of your day. The best. Thank you so much. See, that's too quick. That's too quick, producers. Okay, anyway. Thank you so much, Gretchen. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. And tomorrow night on the show is Danny Goller. Danny Goller's got a new film out, documentary. Tomorrow night, it's DMT time here on Fade to Black. Thank you, Gretchen. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. But for now, all I've got is Go Beckley Tappy. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go Beckley Tappy.